Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and in this one we're going to be talking all about healers and what you should be looking for when you're choosing your healer. Firstly, I'd like to go through just some basics of healing, including the appeasement set and the healing buff and the glyphs that you should be choosing for your healers. We'll start out with the glyphs. Early game, I recommend just going for the vitality sets from floating islands. That's very early game before you start glyph farming from the dungeons. Just get your vitality sets, make your healers tanky, look for the speed, defense, HP, a little bit of accuracy if you have to, if they're also support with any debuffs to land on the enemy. Once you start getting into the dungeons though, the first dungeon I recommend going into is the Wrath dungeon, and if you haven't seen my video about a fully 2-star team for that, I'll put a link in the description. So when you start farming the Wrath dungeon, I'd recommend looking for haste glyphs. Haste is probably your optimal one. Appeasement, I'll get into that in a minute, is decent. It's a bonus effect for your healers, so there's no harm in taking it. And the last one is the precision set if, like I said before, you have any debuffs to land on the enemies. And then with those glyphs, the things you want to be looking for are the same again. So in your top 2 slots, you want to be looking for speed ideally. And then everything else is just HP and defense. I've got a video out that has a chart in it on which glyphs you want to prefer, whether it's defense or flat. I'll also leave a link to that in the description. For instance, this should be a flat if I was flat defense if I was playing optimally, but that's all you want to look for basically, is tanky stats with speed. Accuracy should be the last on your list of priorities, because the main thing you want is for your team to survive and for your healer to be moving fast enough to keep that heal up time going. Once you get into later game, when you can farm all the glyph dungeons, meditation is a great set. Sometimes the resistance set is a good one as well, to stop your healers getting stunned and stuff like that, so they can effectively heal. But yeah, that's much later game. Early game, just stick with the basics, get them fast and tanky, and you should be fine. Next, I want to talk about those healing buffs, and that is the appeasement set and the actual healing buff, which is a buff you get that increases the amount of healing you receive by 25%. Basically, appeasement set, it's not bad. It's an extra 15% healing to your healer, so take it if it's there. Like I said, haste is probably better set to get early game, but take anything you can get if it's got good stats. And then the healing buff is another good one. So that's an extra 25%. And when we talk about the percentage in these, it's not, say you heals 30%, the appeasement doesn't increase it to 45%, it's 15% of the 30%. So it would end up being 10% of your 30 is 3 plus another half of that, so it's 4.5% increased healing from the appeasement set. The math works out the same from the healing buff as well. It's a percentage of the percentage, not additive. And then thanks to, I'm not even going to try and say your name, man, I know I'll mispronounce it, so I'll just put it on the screen with the charts you've made. He's done some testing and made these charts, and it just shows the relationship when you have both an appeasement set and a healing buff, and it shows that if you have both, the appeasement set gets multiplied first, gives you a total, and then the healing buff gets multiplied after that. So it's better than the two just adding together and then multiplying. It's actually an added effect. They multiply off each other, which is very handy. We'll start out with the 2-star healers, which I'm going to be talking mainly about team healers, so ones that heal the whole team. So for your 2-star ones, you've got the Water and Earth Nymph. We'll look at the Water Nymph first. Her first skill can upgrade into great damage or a resistance reduction on the enemy. Neither are that great. Her heal, which is the main part, we're mainly going to be focusing on the heals, is regenerates all allies by, as a base, it's 15%, max skilled it's 30%. So I'll put up a little chart. In this chart I'll have the main criteria I look at when I analyze a healer. and all of the things will be based off max skills, but I'll also have a section in there that's the cooldown of the skill with no skill ups, because that affects especially early game. So with the Nymph, when we look at her, when we go into the skill up section first, her heal at max regenerates for 30%. So when we look at that, her heal uptime is, because it's a 2-turn heal, reusable in 3 turns. So heal is up very often, 2 out of every 3 turns. The total heal it provides is 60%. The burst heal, which is my other criteria, which I look at, is how much it heals in 1 turn, which is only 30%. The cooldown is 3, and the big one for her is that her cooldown of her heal is still 3 turns without skill ups. So she's a great beginner healer, as you don't need skill ups for her to be efficiently healing your team. Skill ups benefit her as the heal goes higher, but she works straight from the get-go. And then the other thing I look at is support. So she's got the AoE blind, which at max skills goes up to a 65% chance to blind all of the enemies for 2 turns. And that's very beneficial in things, especially like the first dungeon you go through, which is Wrath, and in TOT, and a bunch of other content as well. While we're looking at her as a regenerate healer, so she puts a beneficial effect on that heals over 2 turns, I just want to talk a bit about the regenerate versus an actual heal and interactions with heal block. So the standard heals, where it just says heals an ally for a certain amount, they're fairly basic. If you have heal block on you, they don't heal. If you don't have heal block on you, they heal. That's all there is to it. With the heal over time, there's a few more interactions. 1, they're a buff, so they can be purged. 2, if you have that buff on you and then you get hit with the heal block, the buff goes away, so you won't get healed anymore. And finally, if you have heal block on you at the time it's used, you won't get the heal either. So basically, when you're fighting things with purge or heal block, the regenerate abilities aren't going to be as effective. They can still be good if you have good resistance, you got a cleanser, that sort of thing, but as a general thing, I find that there's too many ways to get rid of them. But that's just something to consider, especially when you move into something like the strength dungeon, where the boss has a purge, and then one of the, I think they're nymphs on the side of the boss, has a heal block. So you're fighting against both those things in that one dungeon against the boss, and it just becomes a nightmare trying to keep your heal up. So that's where maybe a direct heal character would be better suited for that. Moving on to the Earth Nymph, which is another 2-star healer, but I see it as not being as powerful as the Water Nymph, as she's got her heals on does more heal, but it's on a bigger cooldown. Beginners, you really want that low cooldown on your heal, especially when her at no skill ups, it's 5 turns. I just don't see it as worth it. Max skilled, it's 4 turns, so you sort of need those skills, and it's still not as frequent as the Water Nymph. She has got the Purge, which can be really good in that strength dungeon as well, removing the immunity off the boss, but overall, I just don't think she's quite as worth it, and I definitely recommend to newer players that only have the 2-star options to go with the Water Nymph. Another commonly, I won't be able to cover all the healers. I don't want to make it drag on for too long. I'm just going to cover some of the main ones people ask about in Discord and stuff like that. So the next one would be the Water Spirit Cub. Now, this Water Spirit Cub, Spirit Fox, I've evolved mine once, is really, I say really good, max skilled, because it has 3 cooldown reductions on the heal. So that brings it to a 30% heal on a 3-turn cooldown, and max skilled it's 40%. So that's right up there with the Nymph on healing output. Nymph is 60 per use, but this one's an instant heal, which is good. Also provides that critical chance buff and the attack bar refill. So this guy is really good, I'd say, if you have him max skilled. And looking into sort of later progression, I'll make teams on this as I get into building all these monsters, but I really like it for the idea of once you start getting more attack-based monsters in your team, once you go away from that poison type setup, but you still want a healer, has the benefit of the purge on the enemy, which is handy, and then that heal is going to give you the crit and the attack bar increase, which is better for your attacking monsters, so you don't have to glyph them with as much crit rate, and then they can still be doing good damage. So that's where I think that will shine. But early game, if you pull this and you've got the skill ups to give, it's a fantastic healer throughout the whole game, I'd say. The next one would be the water druid. I don't actually have one. I've asked for people's opinions on the skill ups, just to give me what skill ups you get. And I hope I've got this information right for you guys. But she's another really good one, especially max skilled. Her one problem is that I believe at max skill, her heal doesn't get any cooldown reductions, which is a bit of a downfall. But having said that, she has got the second heal, which is very handy. And I believe that second heal goes up to a 15% instant heal and 30% per turn, which is very decent. So, and this is where she comes in, where the her main and team heal isn't too bad on a longer cooldown, because it's normally going to be one of your monsters that gets hit down hard early, that needs the bring up, not your whole team. So the cooldown doesn't matter for your whole team, it's more going to be for one monster that gets knocked down, that gets focused. And she's got that 3-turn cooldown second heal that'll top most creatures off. So that's fantastic. So I think she's just a great rounded healer. The 2 heals make her fantastic. Her healing output, like I said, I don't have her, so heals based off her own max HP, but I've heard that it heals a very decent amount. So another fantastic option if you pull her. Good one to skill up, and she can be used basically anywhere, because she's got the instant heal, and then she's also got that single target regenerate. So she's fantastic. I really like her. If I pull her, I will eventually build her and test her out. The next one people talk about, this one's more of a support than a healer, but it gets brought up a fair bit, and that's the water tree. Now, the water tree is a great monster, but as a healer, I'm not a massive fan as a solo healer. If you've got another healer to back it up, maybe like a single target healer, like the for a 2-star option, I really like the, okay, I won't find it now, the Wind Bright Fawn. Very good option. I'll go into probably him a bit later. But for the water druid, the water tree, this skill here, it's got a massive amount of utility. At max skill, it's a 3-turn defense buff. It's got the poison mail, and then he's got the burst poisons, and then his first skill, if you get the right power up, you can poison as well. He's an amazing poisoner, but as a healer, he's a regenerate healer, and it's only for 3 turns, but it's only 15%. It doesn't get any buff from that, so it's not a massive heal. No skills. It's on a very big cooldown of 6 turns. With skill ups, it goes down to 4 turns, which has a very good uptime, meaning 3 out of 4 turns uptime. The biggest problem I find with him is when I tested him, that he uses this skill as a buff, not a heal. So you can be on the last monster of the last wave before you get to the boss. He'll put this on as a buff, and then max skilled, you've got to wait 4 turns before you can get back to that heal. And if you get hit by the boss a couple times and you really need that heal, your monster's just going to fall. That's the big problem I found with him, and that's where him being backed up by another healer like that Wind Bright Fawn or the Water Holy Sister or something like that with like a good burst heal to back him up is very handy. So great unit all round, great support. The heal's more of a bonus from him. He's not sort of a dedicated healer. On the tree topic, we'll go to the fire tree. Now the fire tree is one that is often referred to as the best healer by a lot of people. I think he's fantastic, but I think he's fantastic later game. Early game, it's very hard to get him to 100% crit rate, but still have him fast so he's healing every turn. Every turn that your allies get as well. So you want him as fast as your whole team, and then to have him also tanky enough to take hits. I think that the glyph requirement is a little bit too high for him for early game, especially if you're not up to farming glyph 10 runs and stuff like that. But late game, he's fantastic. His heal is that every time he attacks, if it's critical, it heals all allies by 20% of their max health. That doesn't go up with skill ups or anything, but it's a 100% uptime heal if you've got 100% crit rate on him. So every turn you know you're going to get that 20% heal without doubt, unless you've got heal block on you. And that's just, especially on teams when you run it on auto, that's fantastic, because sometimes your AI can go funny with any other healer and not use the heal. Like sort of when I use my Nymph, like that's my only healer at the moment that I really use. And sometimes I really need that heal, and then she'll use her blind, and then something might die. But this guy, it doesn't matter what he does, you're always going to get that heal. That makes him just super reliable on auto, and just super reliable in general. You know you're always going to have a heal every turn with him. He's fantastic. And while we're talking about these passive heals, I want to talk about the last one I'll talk about as the team healer is the Fire Crusader. Like I said, there's more. There's the Wind Druid, the Earth Druid, the Fire Bright Fawn, the Earth Pixie, the Fire Nymph, and there's probably more. I'm not going to cover Nat 4s because they're normally just better. But yeah, the last one I'll cover is the Fire Crusader. He's a very interesting unit because he heals the whole team, but he doesn't heal himself. So he's another one that you'll have to use as secondary healer, single target healer, like that Wind Bright Fawn or the Water Holy Sister, something like that, with a good chunky off heal. So he heals allies by 15% of his own max HP. So you can build him with lots of HP, and he might be healing allies for 20, 25, 30% of their HP. So that's a handy effect for him. And the defense buff is also really good. One turn buffs are a bit iffy in this game for me, just because as your monsters speed up, they're going to be losing those buffs quicker. But the fact that he gets this every turn makes it good. So when you glyph him, you want him to be just slower than your slowest teammate, so that you try and sync it so that the rest of your team moves, then he moves and buffs the defense, so that when the enemy attacks, you've got that defense buff. So I see him as being a very effective healer. He's good early game if, like I said, you have that secondary healer, just because he doesn't require any skill ups. He doesn't require that crit, that high crit, so you can just glyph him with your speed and your HP, and then he's an effective healer without any skill ups, which is always handy early game, not to need skill ups. And now finally, I'll just talk about those two single target. There's other ones, but these are my two probably favourite single target heals that support those other monsters you'd be using. Sorry, let me find it. Here's the Water Holy Sister. She's just an amazing unit. Her heal just tops almost anyone off, and her third skill, it just makes her amazing. She decreases cooldowns, increases speed, and fully cleanses harmful effects. And at max skills, that's on a 5-turn cooldown, which is just ridiculous. She's insane. And then her second skill heals an ally by 50% of their max HP and increases their attack for 2 turns. That attack isn't even needed there. Just the heal by itself, once it goes up to 65% on a 3-turn cooldown. That's just amazing support with just only a 3-turn cooldown for 60%. Like I said, great all-round unit. She's got 2 good evolved skills as well. She's got the Confuse and the mute. So great unit. If you pull her, I'd recommend building her. She's going to be useful in all parts of the game. And the other one, my 2-star sort of substitute for her as a healer, I look at her as sort of a blend between the Wind Unicorn and the Wind Bright Fawn. But in a healing aspect, when we look at the Wind Bright Fawn, if I can ever get to it, here it is. I actually really rate this heal. It's a fantastic heal. So, heals an ally by 300 plus 30% of own max HP. So that's just based off her own max HP, and that heal goes up to a 50% heal based on her own or his own max HP, and the cooldown reduction on that. So it becomes a 2-turn cooldown. So every second turn, you'll be using that heal and healing someone for 50% of your own max HP. So if you, the place I'm considering testing this unit is going to be in the Strength dungeon, just because you don't need high amounts of defense because it's more of a poison wear down dungeon. So I feel like I can just glyph her full HP, so that heal is going to top anyone off. And then you've also got the added bonus of when you skill it up is the defense increase for 2 turns on a 5-turn cooldown. The 5 turns is a bit much, but that's just an extra beneficial effect to have, which increases the tankiness. But it's all about that heal. A massive heal from a 2-star on a 2-turn cooldown, I just see that as great value. And the evolve skills on this are actually also really decent as well. You've got the self heal for 10%, and a chance to lower the enemy's turn bar, which is always helpful. So she's a he, pretty sure it's a he when you look at it, is a fantastic healer, and I'd recommend that early game, especially if you pair it with that Fire Crusader, if that's the first healer you pull, because you can just use those two in a combo and your team should be fairly stable. But in summary, I'm trying to play through the whole game using only 2 stars, trying to clear content with just 2 stars, and then once I've cleared it stably for a while, then I'll throw in my other monsters. But because I'm doing that, I'm just completely focusing on my Water Nymph at the moment as my healer. I think she's a fantastic unit. She's I'm getting unlucky with the skill ups. Got 3 in the first skill, 4 in the last skill, and only 1 into the heal, but I'll get there. Just like I said, her blind is just really handy, especially in the Wrath dungeon as well. If you can blind the boss, he misses his attack, doesn't get his shield. That's the route I'm going. But like I said, once I clear all the content with my 2-star teams, I'm definitely going to build all the other healers and test them out, and I can give a report on how I think they work functionally. But that's just my opinions on the healers. And like I said, that idea of things to look at for when you're choosing your healer, is it instant or over time? Do you need it to be instant? If it's over time, how often is it healing? Is it 2 out of every 3 turns, 2 out of every 4, 3 out of every 4, that sort of thing? What's the total heal? So each time they click that button, once it's done, how much are they healing? What's the burst healing potential? So in that one click, that turn, how much is it healing? The cooldown when it's max skilled for newer players. What's the cooldown when it's not max skilled? Do you need to skill it? And finally, the support that the unit provides. Because it's all good to be a healer, but you always want to look for that extra support where you can. So that's my thoughts on healers. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe, it really helps, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks.